to the NFC East. We start, of course, with Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. By the way, Sully, you getting any Jerry Jones vibes from Elliot Wolf being like not GM but his GM? Like, is Bob Kraft the GM? Jonathan Kraft the GM?
The whole GM search thing is absolutely ridiculous for the New England Patriots. Like, they didn't want to do a GM search because there was too much going on in the wake of losing Bill Belichick. We didn't want to go through a hiring cycle. You already had the head coach under contract with Gerard Mayo. What else did you have to do? You just had to spend a week to go look for a new GM, and Elliot Wolf, it just happened to be the guy. Like, it was a very, very backwards.
Are people yelling about it up there?
Yes, people are like, "What? All of this was a complete waste of time." And honestly, you just kind of look like jerks in trying to screw around with the Rooney Rule over the last few weeks, because we knew that you were going to just go with Elliot Wolf. You're not going to give him the keys to the most important offseason in Robert Kraft's ownership, the highest draft pick he's had in his ownership, and say, "Thanks. All right, now you're out because we don't like your decision making." That's crazy. So they're very much under siege here. But for the Dallas Cowboys, more importantly, is Mike McCarthy going to get fired? And it feels more like a when rather than an if, because I don't know. This team, to me, I think we've talked about this before. It feels like if things go off on the wrong foot, this could be a disaster season for them, because I don't know if they do a firing in season. I don't know if that's Jerry Jones's kind of MO. I mean, maybe it is.
He's only done it once with Wade Phillips.
But boy, I think that the absolute hottest seat in the NFL right now is Mike McCarthy.
I mean, it feels like if he doesn't get to the NFC title game that he is done, which is, I mean, you have to be one of the final four teams left standing just to keep your job. And it's not going to be an easy schedule. And you look at the teams they play, specifically the Houston Texans. How mad will Jerry be if he loses the Battle of Texas to a second-year quarterback? And now you're the second biggest team in Texas because you can't even beat the Texans. They play every team in the AFC North. All four of those games will be tough. They play the 49ers. They could get blown out in that game. And so, I mean, I'll be shocked if Mike McCarthy is their coach in 2025.
I think, too, if you're going to pick a coach who's getting the rawest deal on the Bill Belichick publicity tour, it's got to be Mike McCarthy, right? Because Jerry Jones. I assume Jerry Jones. Would somebody like Jerry Jones watch that roast to Tom Brady? I assume so. I mean, Bob Kraft was there. Like, dude, if you're paying attention to the media, NFL media at all this offseason, and again, Belichick's gonna be on every single Manning cast on Monday Night Football. He's gonna be doing multiple. Like, he's gonna be out there. And it's hard to watch Bill Belichick operate and not think this guy's still got his fastball. And then you have there's no team that has more pressure on it for Wednesday night when the schedule is released than the Dallas Cowboys. If they get a heater out of the gate where they've got to play, I don't know who their opponents are, but I mean, if you get the Eagles early and you have like your tougher matchups early on in the season, then you're suddenly that narrative can build quickly.
Well, that's what I was going to say, and Breach was touching on it too, is that I think that one of the things that we should be looking at when we do our show after the schedule is released is when does the bye come for Dallas? Because if that game comes, or like the Thursday night game, if they play Philadelphia on a Thursday night or San Francisco on a Thursday night, not that the NFL would put it there, but just work with me for a second.
Yeah.
Those are usually the windows where you fire a head coach in a bye week or after a Thursday night game where there's a little bit of an extended mini bye of sorts. If all of a sudden there's a tough stretch leading into a bye or leading into a Thursday game, that could be the pinpoint where we say, oh boy, Mike McCarthy, you better have a winning record going into that game.
So they got to play the AFC North. So they got the Ravens and the Bengals at home, Browns and the Steelers on the road. They've also got the 49er, the AFC South, or the NFC South, excuse me, on the schedule, but they also have the 49ers at the 49ers, and they have the Lions at home as well by virtue of winning their division. So if your first four games are Eagles, Bengals, Lions, 49ers, I mean, like the Cowboys are going to be a tough out. Cowboys are a good team. They won 12 games, or 13 games, 12 or 13 games back to back to back, whatever it is, under Mike McCarthy. He's done a really good job coaching this team. The expectations are just different. And there's just a lot in place between the lame duck contracts, Belichick out there, Dak's in his final year of his deal, and Jerry says we're all in. And I really think when he said that, everyone took it as the Cowboys are going to go and spend tons of money and get crazy with the draft and really shove in. No, what he meant was we've got what we've got, and we would like to win everything in 2024. Otherwise, there will be changes, which is it's crazy because they've won a bunch of games. But it's the Dallas Cowboys. They are a unique franchise. The Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, they had a great draft again, I thought, and one of the keys to that draft was that they drafted two probably starting caliber, whether or not Cooper DeJean's a cornerback or a safety remains to be seen, but let's look at them both as corners, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Are those guys ready to step up on day one and be contributors? Because Darius Slay and James Bradbury are both long in the tooth, and Bradbury's coming off not a great year in 2023. So are those two rookies able to have an impact on day one?
Yeah, you don't bring those two in unless you're planning on putting them on the field as quickly as possible. So maybe if there's a learning curve, you let the veterans start the season and then get Cooper and Quinyon in there. But man, you look at what Philly did last year and just what they did against the pass. They have the second most passing yards. The secondary couldn't stop anything. And that is why you draft two defensive backs with your first two picks. So I will not be surprised at all if Quinyon Mitchell is out there as a starter in week one. And James Bradbury, as you said, Sully, he struggled. And if you really like Quinyon Mitchell and he looks good in training camp, maybe James Bradbury becomes a trade candidate and you just ship him off and say, all right, Quinyon, the job is yours. We're not even going to think about this. But then, like with Cooper DeJean, I think it's a little different because you don't know where he's going to play, and you kind of got to get that figured out before you make him a starter. So I would say Mitchell, definite starter, and DeJean, they just figured out where they can put him, and maybe he's starting week one.
Yeah, a fascinating zag by Howie Roseman in the draft too, because you've seen he always takes big bodies, usually takes SEC guys, and then goes and gets two cornerbacks with the early picks. I think widely praised for it because you got the value there. But cornerback is the sneaky, tough rookie position. They're all tough because you're learning to play at the NFL level. But you see running backs come into the league and can win early, right? Linebackers, you're sort of playing downhill a little bit more. Pass rushers, you just got to just get after the quarterback. Cornerback, especially if you're matching up against some. I guess you at least have the benefit of. You've got Washington with a new rookie quarterback, and then the Giants, which who the hell knows what's going to happen there at their quarterback position. I think, but it's a tough position to play. And if that defensive, the defensive front, you got Fletcher Cox is gone. If they don't get pressure up front, it makes it more difficult for the guys on the back end. It's not guaranteed that these guys will come in and dominate early on. The New York Giants, Sully.
Yeah, you just kind of referenced it there. Is Daniel Jones on a short leash? I think that people think that, well, they did have an opportunity to draft a quarterback at number 6. J.J. McCarthy was there. Michael Penix was there. They decided to go with Malik Neighbors. Maybe that was a ringing endorsement for Daniel Jones. I just don't know if that's necessarily true. I think that they wanted to draft up to select Drake May. I mean, the reports are that they offered their 2025 first-round pick to go possibly in two number 3 with New England. Patriots didn't end up making the move. I think that, and also you remember what Drew Lock said earlier. There were reports earlier this offseason where he said he had, they signed with the New York Giants because he said that he had an opportunity to compete for a starting job. I wonder what this situation is going to look like if he continues to struggle. Daniel Jones does.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair question. And look, I do feel like the Giants said, Brian Daboll said, all right, I came in here my first year. Daniel Jones got us to the playoffs. He's injured last year. We don't want to take the 4th quarterback. We don't love J.J. McCarthy. Let's sit here at 6. And in fairness to Daniel Jones, he's never had like a super number 1 wide receiver weapon. So let's give him that. Let's see what he can do. And then we'll have every reason to move on after 2024 if he doesn't prove he's the guy. So now you have Malik Neighbors. Now you have Darius Slayton. And now you have these receivers to throw to. We don't know if they're going to have Darren Waller. But you have someone. So I think this is it. I think this is one of those things where Daniel Jones, I don't know if Drew Lock stands to those. So I think you just give the season to Daniel Jones, let him play it out, and whatever happens. If he gets injured, you have Drew Lock. If he doesn't and he's bad, you get rid of Daniel Jones after 2024. I think this is just a prove-it year for him.
I've done a couple of best ball things. Obviously you draft him now, it's season long. Like some weird stack stuff where like there's Jalen Hyatt, Darius Slayton, I didn't ever get Neighbors, but like all these these giants, like sort of fringe back end guys are available late, and I'm tossing Drew Lock on with them because I think there's a chance that Drew Lock just steals the job. I mean, Drew Lock is a high energy guy, tons of variance. Like that start he had in Seattle, he looked awesome. He was great. He's a former second round pick. Like he can. I think he can steal this job. Interestingly enough, by the way, DraftKings actually has odds for starting week one's first snap of week one up here. This one was a surprise. Sam Darnold minus 155. JJ McCarthy plus 125. So there you go, Sully. You were spot on there. Jacoby Brissett minus 250. Drake May plus 190. Daniel Jones minus 425. And Drew Lock plus 275. Russ Wilson minus 700, which is pretty wild. And then Geno Smith minus 600. Tim Howell plus 390. So, I mean, like, Drew Lock's in that range.
I'm just waiting for like a direct snap to Malik Neighbors, and then first snap of the year. Like, all right, well, great.
It does say QB to play first week one snap.
Okay.
So
first snap. You're like, well, there we go.
All right, wrap us up with the Commanders.
Yep, last one, and it's the same question I had for the New England Patriots because it's just as important for their rookie quarterback is who starts at left tackle. They don't really have one right now. It's very similar to New England. As much as we want to say, is Jaden Daniels going to be ready for week one? Like we were talking about with JJ McCarthy, there's other questions that need to be answered before I'm willing to go to that spot. And so you drafted Brandon Coleman in the third round, but I mean, you're asking a third rounder to maybe be your blindside tackle out of the gate. That's a tall ask. And you got some veterans on that roster as well, but it's not clear cut. And if I'm running an organization and I draft a quarterback that's skinny and is a little bit more, you don't know how fragile he possibly could be just because of his size in Jaden Daniels, I'm not putting him out there until I know I got at least a confident left tackle out there.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting one because we saw the Commanders. They cut Charles Leno. He had been their starting left tackle really for most of the past 3 seasons, but dealing with injuries, had an injured calf last season. I think he had hip surgery in March, so I don't even think he would be healthy enough to play. He's still a free agent right now, and then when to sign him. So you are where everything Tyler just said is you cut your left tackle without a plan, but he's beat up. So you don't even know if that would have been a good plan. And now you're staring at a third round rookie. I think Coleman was taken third round.
Yeah.
Do you really want to put all that pressure on him? So I think you have to start someone who's played tackle for. So probably Cornelius Lucas, you start with him. Start the season with him and hope Brandon Coleman gets better as the season goes on. Give him some spot playing time and then hope he can be your eventual starter. But, I mean, it's definitely not a situation you want to be in, especially because you are starting a rookie quarterback most likely, unless Marcus Mariota somehow starts week one, but I don't think that will happen. So, yeah, Jaden Daniels, you don't want him running for his life, but that might happen.
Yeah, and Washington not even on that list of teams where with like the odds for the quarterbacks. So, I mean, worth noting, it's just expected it's going to be Jaden Daniels. And by the way, like the Panthers, the Patriots, questions with Drake May and that offensive line and that offensive scheme and whatever. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury, this offensive line doesn't do a whole lot to instill confidence in like Washington being really good out of the gate. I think Dan Quinn was a great head coach. He did a great job finding. He brought in Kyle Shanahan to run his offense. He got the Falcons to a freaking Super Bowl. I think he'll win in Washington. I just don't know about this. Like if Jaden Daniels is just that guy and he's just going to be great, then by all means, I don't think it'll matter really who's running that scheme. But the Cliff Kingsbury thing, it gives me this. I guess my spidey sense tingling about what might happen for Jaden Daniels in his rookie year. I think at least a little concerning there.